This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, visit LibriVox.org. The Yosemite by John Muir. Section 1. From Chapter 1. When I set out on the long excursion that finally led to California, I wandered afoot and alone from Indiana to the Gulf of Mexico, with a plant press on my back, and holding a generally southward course, like the birds when they are going from summer to winter. From the west coast of Florida, I crossed the Gulf to Cuba, enjoyed the rich tropical flora there for a few months, intending to go thence to the north end of South America, make my way through the woods to the headwaters of the Amazon, and float down that grand river to the ocean. But I was unable to find a ship bound for South America, fortunately perhaps, for I had incredibly little money for so long a trip, and had not yet fully recovered from a fever caught in the Florida swamps. Therefore I decided to visit California for a year or two, to see its wonderful flora and the famous Yosemite Valley. All the world was before me, and every day was a holiday, so it did not seem important to which one of the world's wildernesses I first should wander. Arriving by the Panama steamer, I stopped one day in San Francisco, and then inquired for the nearest way out of town. "But where do you want to go?" asked the man to whom I had applied for this important information. "To any place that is wild," I said. This reply startled him. He seemed to fear I might be crazy, and therefore the sooner I was out of town the better. So he directed me to the Oakland ferry. So on the 1st of April, 1868, I set out afoot for Yosemite. It was the bloom time of the year. Over the lowlands and coast ranges, the landscapes of the Santa Clara Valley were fairly drenched with sunshine. All the air was quivering with the songs of the meadowlarks, and the hills were so covered with flowers that they seemed to be painted. Slow indeed was my progress through these glorious gardens, the first of the California flora I had seen. Cattle and cultivation were making few scars as yet, and I wandered enchanted in long, wavering curves, knowing by my pocket map that Yosemite Valley lay to the east, and that I should surely find it. The Sierra from the west. Looking eastward from the summit of the Pacheco Pass, one shining morning, a landscape was displayed that, after all my wanderings, still appears as the most beautiful I have ever beheld. At my feet lay the great Central Valley of California, level and flowery, like a lake of pure sunshine, 40 or 50 miles wide, 500 miles long, one rich furred garden of yellow composito, and from the eastern boundary of this vast golden flower bed rose the mighty Sierra, miles in height, and so gloriously colored and so radiant it seemed not clothed with light, but wholly composed of it, like the wall of some celestial city. Along the top, and extending a good way down, was a rich pearl-gray belt of snow. Below it a belt of blue and lark purple, marking the extension of the forests, and stretching along the base of the range a broad belt of rose purple. All these colors, from the blue sky to the yellow valley, smoothly blending as they do in a rainbow, making a wall of light ineffably fine. Then, it seemed to me, the Sierra should be called, not the Nevada or Snowy Range, but the Range of Light. And after 10 years of wandering and wondering in the heart of it, rejoicing in its glorious floods of light, the white beams of the morning streaming through the passes, the noonday radiance on the crystal rocks, the flush of the alpenglow, and the irised spray of countless waterfalls, it still seems above all others the range of light. In general views, no mark of man is visible upon it, nor anything to suggest the wonderful depth and grandeur of its sculpture. None of its magnificent forest-crowned ridges seems to rise much above the general level to publish its wealth. No great valley or river is seen, or group of well-marked features of any kind standing out as distinct pictures. Even the summit peaks, marshaled in glorious array so high in the sky, seem comparatively regular in form. Nevertheless, the whole range, 500 miles long, is furrowed with canyons 2,000 to 5,000 feet deep, in which once flowed majestic glaciers, and in which now flow and sing the bright, rejoicing rivers. Characteristics of the canyons. Though of such stupendous depth, these canyons are not gloom gorges, savage and inaccessible, with rough passages here and there. They are flowery pathways conducting to the snowy, icy fountains, mountain streets full of life and light, graded and sculptured by the ancient glaciers, and presenting throughout all their course a rich variety of novel and attractive scenery, the most attractive that has yet been discovered in the mountain ranges of the world. In many places, especially in the middle region of the western flank, the main canyons widen into spacious valleys or parks diversified like landscape gardens, with meadows and groves and thickets of blooming bushes, while the lofty walls, infinitely varied in form, are fringed with ferns, flowering plants, shrubs of many species, and tall evergreens and oaks that find footholds on small benches and tables, all enlivened and made glorious with rejoicing streams that come chanting in chorus over the cliffs and through side canyons, in falls of every conceivable form, to join the rivers that flow in tranquil, shining beauty down the middle of each one of them. The incomparable Yosemite. The most famous and accessible of these canyon valleys, and also the one that presents their most striking and sublime features on the grandest scale, is the Yosemite, situated in the basin of the Merced River at an elevation of 4,000 feet above the level of the sea. It is about 7 miles long, half a mile to a mile wide, and nearly a mile deep in the solid granite flank of the range. The walls are made up of rocks, mountains in size, partly separated from each other by side canyons, and they are so sheer in front and so compactly and harmoniously arranged on a level floor that the valley, comprehensively seen, looks like an immense hall or temple lighted from above. But no temple made with hands can compare with Yosemite. Every rock in its walls seems to glow with life. Some lean back in majestic repose, others absolutely sheer, or nearly so for thousands of feet, advance beyond their companions in thoughtful attitudes, giving welcome to storms and calms alike, seemingly aware, yet heedless of everything going on about them. Awful in stern, immovable majesty, how softly these rocks are adorned, and how fine and reassuring the company they keep, their feet among beautiful groves and meadows, their brows in the sky, 1,000 flowers leaning confidingly against their feet, bathed in floods of water, floods of light, while the snow and waterfalls, the winds and avalanches and clouds shine and sing and wreathe about them as the years go by, and myriads of small winged creatures, birds, bees, butterflies, give glad animation and help to make all the air into music. Down through the middle of the valley flows the crystal Merced, river of mercy, peacefully quiet, reflecting lilies and trees and the onlooking rocks, things frail and fleeting, and types of endurance meeting here and blending in countless forms, as if into this one mountain mansion Nature had gathered her choicest treasures to draw her lovers into close and confiding communion with her. The approach to the valley. Sauntering up the foothills to Yosemite by any of the old trails or roads in use before the railway was built from the town of Merced up to the river to the boundary of Yosemite Park, richer and wilder become the forests and streams. At an elevation of 6,000 feet above the level of the sea, the silver firs are 200 feet high, with branches whirled around the colossal shafts in regular order, and every branch beautifully pinnate like a fern frond. The Douglas spruce, the yellow and sugar pines, and brown bark libocedrus have reached their finest developments of beauty and grandeur. The majestic sequoia is here too, the king of conifers, the noblest of all the noble race. These colossal trees are as wonderful in fineness of beauty and proportion as in stature, and assemblage of conifers surpassing all that have ever yet been discovered in the forests of the world. Here indeed is the tree lover's paradise. The woods, dry and wholesome, letting in the light in shimmering masses of half sunshine, half shade. The night air as well as the day air, indescribably spicy and exhilarating. Plushy fir boughs for campers' beds, and cascades to sing us to sleep. On the highest ranges over which these old Yosemite ways passed, the silver fir, Abies magnifica, forms the bulk of the woods, pressing forward in glorious array to the very brink of the valley walls on both sides, and beyond the valley to a height of from 8,000 to 9,000 feet above the level of the sea. Thus it appears that Yosemite, presenting such stupendous faces of bare granite, is, nevertheless, embedded in magnificent forests, and the main species of pine, fir, spruce, and libocedrus are also found in the valley itself. But there are no big trees, Sequoia gigantea, in the valley or about the rim of it. The nearest are about 10 and 20 miles beyond the lower end of the valley on small tributaries of the Merced and Tuolumne rivers. End of Section 1. Read by Dennis Sayers in Modesto, California for LibriVox. Fall 2006.